When you were evaluating building the dealership, what were some of the things that you were considering as part of your business model to say, like, yeah, this is going to be a viable business for me?
Yeah, I mean, when Logan called me, close friends and previous business partners, and talked about the difficulty finding a used Tesla, and the thought is creating a marketplace for other people to buy and sell used electric vehicles.
But you've been growing rapidly. What kind of challenges and maybe surprises come up as you look to expand the footprint of the business?
You look historically at EVs, they already were the most volatile asset in automotive history. But yeah, I mean, they're very hard to predict. You know, it's a very unique product. But I think it's, pretty similar startup journey to most businesses that are doing something new and different. There's a lot of opportunity there. And also there's a lot of unknowns that can create a pretty intense roller coaster ride.
I know a lot that are going to be tuning in want to know, what the heck is Alex doing about the EV tax incentive?
Let me be clear. Look, I've been saying the same thing as Jimmy for a long time, that
one of the things that I enjoy most about producing the Dealer Playbook is hearing from you. The messages that I get of people who are getting so much value out of the podcast, applying it to their day-to-day workflows and finding a thriving career right here in the retail auto industry. It means the world to me. And one of the ways that we make doing this possible is through my agency, Flex Dealer. And of course, in the spirit of providing value, I think this is a perfect time to head over to www.flexdealer.com to show even further support for you, my beloved DPB gang. Right now, if you go to my website, flexdealer.com, you can get a full free PDF of my #1 best-selling book, Don't Wait, Dominate. And the reason I think it's so special is that a lot of the topics that are discussed in this book are even more relevant today than ever with this surge in popularized AI and people wondering, well, what can I do next? How can I have a competitive advantage? Well, that's all here in this book. And so I'd love to be able to offer you a free copy of this. If you go to flexdealer.com, it would mean the world to me, because that is how we continue to produce this show for you. Alex Lawrence is a serial entrepreneur, tech veteran, and tenured professor who co-founded EV Auto, one of the USA's first dealership groups dedicated exclusively to used EVs and plug-in hybrids. A longtime technology executive and current associate professor at Weber State University, he teaches courses on sales technology and AI while investing in startups and advising companies. Now, he's been on the show before. We know a little bit about the story. He's frustrated by his own difficulty finding a used Tesla. So he launched evcars.com in 2019 with co-founder Logan Woolley and turned it into a physical dealership chain that now sells premium EVs from Teslas, Rivian, Lucid, and so much more. Just opened a new location, I heard, in Tennessee. Alex, my man, thanks so much for coming back and joining me on the Dealer Playbook.
Great to see you again, man. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
There's so many things I want to talk to you about just from a practical life perspective, because I think there's so much wisdom to be offered there, especially with this kind of a resume. But I do want to get into the EV thing because I think, so many people in the industry are concerned and or thinking about it. And I think maybe where I want to start. So recently had Jimmy from Plug, our friend Jimmy, on the show. We talked about how half of the dealers in the United States are not participating in EVs. He specifically talked about the used EV market. And it was that conversation where I was like, dude, I got to get Alex back on the show. We were at time of recording that episode just ahead of the tax incentive going away. So I want to talk to you about that. But I think to start, he said something really important. He's like, in order to do well with used EVs, especially, you have to go all in on used EVs. And I mean, that's the entire business model. When you were evaluating building the dealership, what were some of the things that you were considering as part of your business model to say, like, yeah, this is going to be a viable business for me?
Yeah, I mean, when Logan called me, close friends and previous business partners, and talked about the difficulty finding a used Tesla, and said, hey, I think there's a market for that. I immediately said, yeah, I've been looking too. And, I'll just kind of dinking around and yeah, it's not easy. So the original plan was evcars.com, which we, acquired. It wasn't just a domain that was available. We had to pay up for it. And the thought is creating a marketplace for other people to buy and sell used electric vehicles. And, Logan and I are at a stage in life and career where we didn't want to do something small. And so the stated public, private, whatever, nobody cared back then, goal was to be the largest marketplace in the world for used electric vehicles. So that's why we paid up for EV cars and EV trucks and all these great domains. So we started down that path. And in order to really understand our paying customer, it was dealerships, free for private sellers, dealers pay, just like they pay, cars.com or whatever to list their cars. And so I had never been a dealer before. Obviously, I'd never been in the car business, which is not totally true. My first business ever was a car detailing business when I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So first business and last business, I like to say, not to sound too dramatic. But, again, there's so many things that have happened here that feel, I don't want to say like, destiny or whatever, but Logan and I were talking. He's like, yeah, man, I've got an old dealer's license. I said, what? When did you have, I missed out on that stage anyway. So long story short, we dusted it off. I started, signing up for software tools and shipping and auctions and all these things to learn how dealers work so I could speak their language and understand their pain points. And for a year and a half, we built the marketplace. And I was buying and selling used Teslas. And then it kind of dawned on us like, wait a minute, maybe there's a different business we should focus on.
You've been growing rapidly. I mean, I feel fortunate. I was able to step into your Lehigh location, which I mean is a vibe. It's a vibe.
The Lion's a vibe, right?
Yes. I mean, just everything, from the snacks and the kind of the man cave, I walked out of there.
Billionaire's garage. We call it the billionaire's garage.
Yes. I love it. I was like, and this is the kind of office I want when I build an office. It was like just that kind of a vibe. I felt good in there. I felt like I could breathe in there. Everything was really as chill. But you've been growing rapidly. What kind of challenges and maybe surprises come up as you look to expand the footprint of the business? Because you've got, is it 4 locations now?
3, but we've got our 4th. We haven't announced it yet. And then there's some more that we're working on. It's interesting. I mean, if you look historically at EVs, they already were the most volatile asset in automotive history. There's been 2 times when the market has been rocked, and the used EV tax credit is the 3rd time. And so when people, some of them are haters of like, you're going out of business after the EV tax credit ends, and I say, well, been doing this for 6 years, been through 2 really rocky changes. This one might be the most rocky in some ways. I actually don't think so, because the previous 2 were associated with these massive price drops and massive depreciation that was immediate and overnight. And that's a pretty tough thing. This one we've seen coming for a long time. Yeah. So we've got some strategies that may or may not work. But I'm kind of like, yeah, this is the game I've been in. It's another day in the office where it's like crazy train for a little while. But yeah, I mean, they're very hard to predict. It's a very unique product. We're doing a lot of things that are new or never been done, maybe even that creates opportunity and challenges. But I think it's, pretty similar startup journey to most businesses that are doing something new and different. There's a lot of opportunity there. And also there's a lot of unknowns that can create a pretty intense roller coaster ride.
We're going to dig into some of the things going around your mind as far as this new challenge. But before we do that, I want to ask, I just find it so impressive that, you've got all the accomplishments that you have under your belt, a lengthy resume, still actively teaching. How much of what you're doing with EV Auto becomes a case study and a real world validator for your students? All
of it. I get asked pretty frequently. So either you're not teaching at Weber State anymore, are you? Or are you still teaching at Weber State? And the answer is an emphatic yes, because I feel an obligation. But let me be clear. I mean, they pay me and I love my students and I get a lot out of it. So it's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. But, it's a good opportunity for me to kind of put my money where my mouth is. Obviously it's a lot bigger financial opportunity outside of teaching. But I feel obligation might be too strong of a word, but I feel like it's really valuable that I can say to my students, hey, this thing we're talking about today, I did it yesterday. So I'll give you an example. I mean, I teach in a sales program, the professional sales program. It's one of the oldest in the country. It's a 4-year degree in sales. I passionately believe that it's one of the degrees that they get a high ROI on. It's affordable. Like almost every student, something like 99%, they won't let us say 100, I think, get really good jobs. And so when people are hating on academia and higher education for, too expensive, they don't get good jobs, they go into debt, yada, 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 that's not our program. And so, but I can say to them, like I did this week, some of them might get sick of hearing about it, but I don't think so. I can say, hey, guess what? We did over $1 million in sales in one day this last week. And let me tell you about what that was like. And even better, I have video of it. They can go watch if they really want to, because all of it's documented online. And so, yeah, I'm using the AI tools in sales. I mean, this is a sales business. Right. And so, and the university is super supportive. They're awesome. But when I'm in class, I'm in class. I'm focused. And I teach 2 semesters a year. I teach 2 mornings a week. But I'd be lying if I didn't say it's a real challenge to do both. And I'm going to, for the foreseeable future, because I love it and I feel like it's good for my students.
There's a joke in here somewhere too, like that you might actually be the only dealer that has a real PhD, not like if your children get into the business,
they won't.
They'll have a PhD. They'll have the Papa had a dealership, but yeah. I think it's so inspiring. I'll tell
you a quick funny story. I had no idea, but I'm a PhD was the most miserable experience of my life that I like chose to do. I've had worse things happen. I hated it. It was terrible. I loved the people that I met, but I was not good at it. I'm not being humble. I was not good at it. I had to hire a tutor. It was a real struggle. And so, I'm proud of it. Right. And, my LinkedIn says Alex Lawrence, PhD, and I think,
as it should.
I think that's fine. And but I don't make people call me doctor. Even my students, it's like, just call me Alex. And so, but when I first got into business as a dealership owner, people would say, PhD, and I'd be like, man, I worked hard for that. Why are you laughing? And then I learned Papa had a dealership was a thing, and I'm like, yeah. So yeah, funny story.
I think we need shirts actually with your face, like a cool graphic tee with your face. That's like the actual PhD. You know what I'm saying?
The last thing this world needs.
I want it for my own vain ambition. Yeah. I think, look, it is so inspiring. And I think absolutely you work hard for something like that, then you got to put it on there. And what's inspiring about it is the commitment that you have to be able to do the hard thing. It is a proof point to the thesis that we all talk about, but have very few real life indicators of. Like, you do a hard thing, you do the thing that nobody else is willing to do, you get the outcome that nobody else will, get to experience in a lot of ways.
Say, man, I want to teach. I want to do that. What do I need to do? I said, well, just go get a PhD and you'll be fine. I mean, to be clear, it's a real PhD. No offense, but I didn't do like a University of Phoenix online.
Right.
I commuted to Oklahoma State for years to attend class there. And so, and that was important to me too, that I picked a real one, that would withstand scrutiny. But anyhow, it's essentially, it's allowed me to teach and get tenure and feel like, I'm sort of accepted by the academic world. I think some still, I mean, nobody by name I can think of it are kind of like, well, what's this guy's deal, So, but that's okay.
I mean, I have a pal actually in my congregation, young guy who's working on tenure and, talking to me about, and he's in finance. He teaches economics or finance or something at a university here in Texas. He's younger than me. The number of papers that he has to write and contribute and articles, and I think that's why I'm so impressed by it. In addition to you're actively building a business with all of the crazy plate spinning that happens in the EV market, dealing with legislation, marketing, people development, it's just super impressive. And I think it's important to put an exclamation point on it. It's one of the things that I just feel so inspired by you and getting to observe you. I mean, and also like, can we add social media celebrity in there? How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about it objectively, I understand it because I like to watch people on social media operate their business authentically and behind the scenes. I enjoy that personally. So when I step back and go, hey, I'm this 51-year-old dad in Utah, like who wants to watch me? I go, no, I get it. People, want to watch how you run a car dealership and how especially since, it's just turn on the camera and show you what's going on, good, bad, and ugly. I mean, we do edits privacy out. I don't, there's some strategic things and stuff that all of it gets filmed. I got a camera right here permanently. I got my full-time camera guy outside. And so it's running almost all the time. But yeah, that's been a slog too, man. I mean, I think I've been posting for 4 years. And for a very long time, nobody listened, nobody paid attention. It was cringy, and you just have to keep grinding. And then I would say, I mean, maybe a year ago, it really started to catch on, and it's an absolutely critical part of our business. And that's what I tell myself. Hey, it sells cars. And, a younger Alex with a different ego and stuff would have been excited about being recognized and those kinds of things. The more mature Alex that's in a better place is like, hey, it sells cars. And, and I really enjoy meeting people. And it's still every once in a while kind of mind blowing to me, when we have tourists that just stop in to meet and take pictures. And when I get asked for my autograph and when I'm recognized in Greece and in Turkey on a vacation with my family and stuff like that, I'm just like, what the heck? But then I look at the analytics and go, wow, 25 million people watched those videos, last week or whatever. I guess it makes sense, So anyhow,
I think it's impressive because, to your earlier point, it's authentic. And something that the world is missing, especially in the social sphere, is that real behind the scenes look at, yes, you're seeing what I'm posting, but what I'm posting is a real life depiction of running a business and everything that goes along with it. We're not sugarcoating it. I even love how you preface with, I've been posting for 4 years and here we are now. I don't think a lot of people understand that that's often how it looks. That's
how it does look, man. Everybody I talk to that wants to do it, I'm like, first, you got to realize this is a long-term commitment. Second, the algorithm, you got to be posting all the time. Third, you got to realize that you're going to post stuff that's cringy and ain't going to work. And you just got to keep at it. And so if you're really serious about it, it's going to take a while. Now, is it going to take 4 years? Probably not. But also there's look, car dealerships, all of a sudden, everybody wants to be on social media. And everybody's trying to figure it out. And so the number of people that are trying to do it has gone up dramatically in even 6 months. And so it's going to be harder to get noticed for sure.
Crazy. I want to shift gears. I know a lot that are going to be tuning in want to know, what the heck is Alex doing about the EV tax incentive, especially from your vantage point, because you are all in. Like Jimmy talked about earlier, when I spoke with him, we're talking like 50% of dealers are not even.
I didn't know that.
They're just kind of like, yeah. When he originally sent me the stat, it was like 59% of dealers are not participating in any way with EVs.
I didn't know that.
At time of recording, he said that went down to 49%. So we're like half of dealers are like, I can't be bothered with it. His advice was, well, if you're going to do used EVs, especially, you need to go all in on used EVs. There's no lukewarm. Well, here you are. I know you've been to Washington, D.C. I know you've met with regulators and you've advocated for EV incentives and those sorts of things. Now that it's gone and as many would say, the crap hit the fan, what are you thinking about in terms of your business and the EV market at large there?
Let me be clear. I advocated, so I'm a capitalist. I don't like government intervention in business, but I follow the same language that Elon says. Out of this side, well, talking out both sides of your mouth is a bad thing, but out of this stance, it's like, yeah, I think the credits should go away. Out of the other side, but why don't you take some of the gas car ICE incentives that are billions of dollars that with it? And the reality is that's not going to happen because EVs are a political poker chip or a hot potato. It's unrelated to it's hate for Biden, hate for that administration. Like that's the right word. And look, I'm not a fan of that administration. And so I don't have hate, but not a fan. And so I get it. But when I was advocating, I was saying, look, if you're going to take away the others. If you're not, then leave it. And I also was advocating that, a lot of them were painting it as a picture for rich people that don't need discounts. And obviously it benefits me, the used one versus the new one. But as objectively as I could say, I'm like, I think that's true for new cars because the limit's $300,000 for income and to get a $7,500 discount. Those people don't need it. But the limit on used is $75,000 for a $4,000 discount. And I've seen it hundreds of times. The alternative without it, because they use that $4,000 as a down payment, is they can get financed at a reasonable interest rate and not get a buy here, pay here gas car that's going to be very expensive to operate. And so the group that got punished was the group that needs reliable transportation the most and a reasonable interest loan, rate loan the most. And so I was trying to get that message across, but I knew it would work.
Yeah, they had already got it so far in their heads. They're like, just squash it.
Doesn't matter. Like I said, it's a political thing, not a who wins, who loses. It was so anyway, I knew it was going to go away. I also am not naive. I know that nothing else is going with it on the gas car side, and it is what it is. I can't control it. So I wanted to file that disclaimer up front. But knowing that it was going to go away, there are two parts to the strategy. One, how do we try and maximize it? And I can tell you the story about that because we nailed it. And I still can't believe how we literally, we sold our last car at 11:40 PM. And so, I mean, that you couldn't have predicted it more, but what are we doing after? I can talk to you about that too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I gotta know, was it like lineups? Were people like, I gotta get in under the wire?
Yeah. I mean, and it wasn't just the last day, it was leading up to it. And that's what we thought would happen. And so I think we sold almost 40 cars on the last day. Like I said, the last one. And let me tell you, talking about social media, we had 3 left at about 10 o'clock. And I turned on the camera and went live on 5 different networks. And we sold those last 3 because of social media. And to follow the rules, you have to have a deposit and you have to have a signed contract on a real VIN. So 2 of them actually were local. They were watching live. They drove down here and signed docs at 11 o'clock at night. And the other was in California. But if I didn't have that platform, we wouldn't have sold those, but we sold the last one. And so it's hard to even believe this, but we predicted demand for us perfectly, right? Because we couldn't do anymore. And so, yes, there was more people that wanted it, but we literally couldn't do anymore because the clock was ticking. And so, it was a really exciting, it was a very special day, a top 5 day probably that'll ever happen in company history. Everybody was at work. Everybody was excited, cheering. It was a really high energy event, but the next day, October 1st, it's like, okay, that was awesome. Everybody take a breather, take a break. And we're still a little bit taking a break today. It was just so intense for that last week or two. But now we execute part 2 of the strategy.
Hey, does your marketing agency suck? Listen, before we hop back into this episode, I know you know me as the host of the Dealer Playbook, but did you also know that I'm the CEO of Flex Dealer, an agency that's helping dealers capture better quality leads from local SEO and hyper-targeted ads that convert? So if you want to sell more cars and finally have a partner that's in it with you that doesn't suck, visit flexdealer.com. Let's hop back into this episode. I love the visual. That is as close to the equivalent of a Black Friday at a Walmart where people are going to strangle each other for a 27-inch Zenith that they got $29 off of, but in your terms, like I think about, there's so many things floating through my mind. I'm like, what motivates somebody to take action? Psychological triggers around urgency and the fact that customers are willing to activate at 11 p.m. because this is that important to them. And also one of the things that I tend to gravitate towards, maybe it's my upbringing, my whatever beliefs, you've been prepared. Like you have put in the reps, even in terms of being ready on social media and posting for 4 years and finding a groove and testing and examining and all of that preparation over the years. It's inspiring to hear, because I think a lot of people, this is where they miss, like getting the reps in and building that foundation so that when the time was appropriate, you can go live on 5 networks and social media does what it's supposed to do, versus the people that are perpetually unprepared, don't want to put the reps in, just try to go viral, drop it like it's hot videos, all the things that they do, wondering why they're not going viral. And there's no consistency. There's no strategy. There's no, that to me is super interesting, that, like you said, because of social media, you were able to push it over the edge on 3 more units at 11 p.m. because of the reps that you put in that nothing can replace.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of our biggest moats. I don't care how big of a dealer group you are and how much money you have. You can't buy authentic, organic social interaction. You literally can't.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could hire somebody that already has it and have them be your full-time employee, and they can bring some with them. But I mean, that's still going to be a rare challenge. And so it's a big moat for us. Yeah. And honestly, it's a tough thing for them to do because, I'm the owner, right? And I let you see what goes on. And, a lot of these big dealer group owners, they're not going to do that. They don't want that. And the reality is some of those folks are just harder to relate to. I'm building something from scratch. We are building something from scratch. And that's easier to relate to and cheer for and follow along than the dealer that owns 80 dealerships and is a 3rd generation. That's just not as relatable. And so, like I said, they can't buy their way around it. And so it's a huge competitive advantage for us. This is something that, a lot of people don't know, but Carvana and others, they shut it down a week or more before, because the IRS came in and changed the submission criteria at the last minute with no notice. It was really a dumb move. They never answer their phones or reply to emails. So I have no idea.
The IRS? No, what?
And then the government shutdown, couldn't be at a worse time. So for us, never having taken a dime out of the business in 6 years and reinvesting every penny, we don't have any flooring. We own all of our cars and everything else free and clear. I mean, the IRS owes me $600,000 right now. And it's not ideal, but we've, saved up our pennies and don't have flooring. And so a lot of people, tapped out because the flooring expenses would be too much if you got to wait a month for the IRS. And look, I'm going to be riding them like a little pony to get paid, but we can handle it. And so we were able to generate millions of dollars in extra sales because we were ready for that. And I'm really proud of our team for sacrificing and preparing so that we could keep the accelerator down all the way until the last minute.
I love it. When's the book coming out?
In my free time, I'm going to write a book.
Yeah. In your free time between teaching and running and expanding like crazy, and being a dad, is it one of those things where you walk through this has happened to me in the past and I've had to severely recalibrate. You walk through the door from a business trip and your kids give you that weird, do we know each other? Are we distant cousins? Like how at family reunions, it's like you got to get to know each other again. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I mean, look, I have a lot of, look back, do differently feelings for sure. I was a really mediocre dad and husband for a long time. And unfortunately, my oldest is away at college. My other's 14. And so one of them's not waiting for me to come home anymore. She's out on her own doing awesome things. And I'm really proud of her. My youngest is, around for sure, but she's busy and friends are number one at that age and stuff.
Yep.
And so I really am trying, to make up for that. And I hit the mark sometimes. I mean, my 14-year-old and I went to dinner together last night after I took her to her lesson. And that was really special for me. And we go on vacations, not very frequently, but when we do, it's awesome because I'm able to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with them. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not a sexy answer, but it's a real one. Yeah. And I'm trying, but my wife, who's put up with a lot for 25 years and is my ultimate co-founder and business partner, she's right there and knows what it takes and is all in. And But it's a never ending challenge really to try and be good at both.
Oh man, isn't that the truth? It's like, I'm thinking, welcome to the club, and you're now the spokesperson for it. Cause I'm like, thank you. And I'm sure a lot of people in the industry feel the same way. And hopefully that gives them a little shimmer of hope. I mean, that's something that we certainly try to advocate for on the podcast is, hey, this is what it really looks like. I know, echoing what you just said about your wife, any other woman, this would not have turned out the way that it's turned out for me.
Same.
Just no question about it.
Yeah.
I know people are dying to know, well, what's your pivot for the EV thing? Where's your mind at? What are you thinking about? What are some things that you're willing to share that they could consider to maybe help them move into this next phase of EV sales?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been saying the same thing as Jimmy for a long time that, and it's interesting that the reason that percentage went down is because of the used EV tax credit of dealers. And it's going to go back up because a lot of them have already left the market or will leave the market because that easy money isn't there. And there's not a lot of incentive to sell those over a gas car of a similar price. And so
Right.
It was funny to watch how many flocked to it. They used to curse them. And then they became their out for people that couldn't get financed, right? Oh, we can't get you financed, but we can over on the CV because we got a $4,000 down. So let us show you this. And so, I think that I know I'm going to be wrong. I just don't know how much I'm going to be wrong. But the cars over 25,000 should have zero impact. They were never a participant in the credit, and so and I actually think those cars, they become a better deal because they never had $4,000, but the new cars they were competing against had $7,500. And so, there's already some companies, I think Hyundai or something said, hey, we're going to still knock down the price $7,500. And Tesla's doing this weird thing with the lease and stuff, but I don't know how long they can keep that up. I think they're just trying to push through maybe the end of the year. And if they do keep it up, fine. But used above 25K is still a significant difference in price between that and a new one. And so people that are trying to and look, those new ones, they're still going to depreciate heavily when they drive them off the lot, and more heavily than their gas peers. And so, all these used ones I sell, the depreciation's been built in. And so they're the beneficiary of that. So I think people that are still, I would say, wise financial stewards of their money, not just people that are cheap or on a budget or can't afford it. I still think used is, and that's true of gas cars too. I think used is a compelling offer, unless you just want a new car or the new car is dramatically different than the previous versions or whatever. And there are plenty of people out there like that. So the above the 25,000, I don't think a ton happens. I think actually you might even see them go up in value. Crazy enough. But I don't know. The ones that are under 25,000, that's the $1 million question. There were cars that were inflated dramatically because of the free $4,000. There were also cars, I think, that were deflated. So if you had a $26,000 Tesla, that was the death zone, because the difference between 26,000 and 24,999 was not $1,001. The difference was actually $6,001 because those cars go down to 21 or 20,500 and yours stay at 26. So cars that were there got pushed under to 24,999 because they would just sit. And so I think those cars actually hold their value or go up because they're worth it. A 2022 Model 3 long range all-wheel drive with 30,000 miles, that's not a $20,500 car. That's a $26,500 car, and it's still a really good deal, and it competes really well against its gas competitors. The ones that got propped up, a 2018 Model 3 long range all-wheel drive with 80,000 miles was selling for the same price. And that's a but again, at 20,000, it was still a good deal. Right. So I think those ones lose value. Now, what I've been telling people, and it's too late now, I don't think they're going to go down $4,000 in price. So if you wanted one, you should have got one. But for those that didn't want one or the timing wasn't right, they're still going to be cheaper retail price, but not as good if they qualified for the credit. The other thing is a lot of people want those cars that never qualified for the credit. And so, for them,
ask you about that.
Yeah, for them, it is a better deal. It went from $24,999 to $22,999. So for them, better deal. So I don't know what percentages of the market, what dynamic and stuff, but the short story is I'm cutting down my inventory of $25,000 and less cars. And I'm going to wait to see what happens with the market before I build it back up. And so I bought more cars that are over 25,000. My sales, monthly sales will go down. My monthly profit will go down. But this is the beauty of it. It's not going to stay there. If you look at the used EV market, the growth of it's going to slow, and it's going to grow slower than it did last year, but it still grows.
Mm-hmm.
That line is going to continue to go like this, up and to the right.
Right.
And I would bet everything on that. And so, because the people that have EVs, they love them, right? They tell people they love them. They try and convince their neighbor or their sister to buy a Tesla. It's like this word of mouth marketing that I don't think happens with any other gas car that's affordable. You might have the neighbor that'll try and get you to buy a Porsche, but that's an aspirational vehicle.
Right.
Whereas you got somebody, I can't tell you how many hundreds of times, that bought a $27,000 Model Y that can't stop talking about it. It's like, you want to know how somebody does CrossFit? They'll tell you they do CrossFit, right? It's a similar thing. You want to know if somebody's got a Tesla? They'll tell you they got a Tesla, right? And so I'm in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
I'm in this for decades. And so a year from now, I think we'll be well positioned to handle like all the lease returns that are going to come back. The 5 million lease returns that were taken advantage of at the beginning of the tax credit, those are going to start coming back into the market. And, I'm going to have a bunch of locations and the best reputation in America and the biggest social media presence as a dealer, I think, so that I can capitalize on that. But it's going to be very bumpy between now and then. And I'll just end by saying most dealers should wait. Most dealers should wait, see what happens, re-enter the market with a head of steam when it's known. Because if you don't got the stomach for it and you're not all in, it's going to be a hell of a ride the next 6 to 12 months.
True. I couldn't agree more. I think, well, it's like anything. I mean, not just EVs. If you're not going to go all in on something, then just maybe don't for a minute, take a breath until you realize your commitment level. I mean, that makes so much sense to me. And where my mind was going, I mean, my wife and I bought a Tesla and
honestly,
I mean, her favorite vehicle she's ever owned.
I've heard that more times than I can count. And look, I've had some people that are like, not for me. I got a good friend that we were saying, he's like, hey, he returned it or sold it and went back to a Toyota Camry or something. And that's okay. They're not for everybody. But yeah, the vast majority of people say what you just said.
Well, and the way I think about it too is we're talking about a percentage of the market that felt maybe compelled to action based on a tax incentive.
Sure.
But there's millions and millions of cars ICE vehicles being sold right now with no tax incentives on them. And we're still going to buy those because it's the vehicle that we want. In the same way, I think, well, there's obviously a percentage of the EV market, myself included, that when I bought it, I didn't even know the tax credit was a thing until my accountant told me. And we bought it because that was just the vehicle that we wanted.
Well,
and
let me tell you, the ones that are going to feel the most pain are new non-Teslas. I mean, because they're overpriced and they're under technologied, and right. So, I mean, I drove a Lucid today and it's a beautiful car and it has got massage seats and it's got a 450-mile battery and it's remarkable the depreciation and the value you can get. I love it. But self-driving is not nearly as good. And so it's not as pleasant of a car to drive for me if I'm putting any miles on it. Now, I love it, and the self-driving is still good. So I'm a big Lucid fan, to be clear. I actually think they're incredible vehicles, but there's a whole bunch of other brands that have new EVs that are not remotely as close to a Lucid, but a new Lucid is also prohibitively expensive. But again, I'm going to sell that one. It's the Grand Touring, the 450-mile battery, massage seats, massive back seat. It's got the screens that it's like a big 7 Series BMW, chauffeur kind of car. I'm going to sell that car for in the 50s, and it's got 20,000 miles on it. And so, I mean,
hold on, I'm just going to go to evauto.com right now and take a look.
Don't need something that's $50,000. That's a luxury sedan, and it checks the 400 plus mile battery thing, which most people are like, when you clear 400 miles or 500 miles, then it's good for me. I'm like, well, here you go. So anyhow,
interesting. Well, and you think about that, Alex.
Yeah,
there's people right now driving $50,000 Toyota Priuses. Right when you get the all plug-in hybrid version with all the bells and whistles, I think you're approaching $50,000 at least.
Yep, and this car is 20,000 miles, one owner, clean title, clean Carfax, great battery. Like we do a test, and I mean, there's no gotchas in this car. I just bought another one, and I think I'm going to sell that one in the 40s. It's got like 38,000 miles on it. It'll be high 40s, but yeah, and people just don't know that. They just don't know it.
Yeah.
I've got a Porsche Taycan. Okay. And to be clear, these cars move slower because you're still, in a price that moves slower, right? I mean, we know with all cars, I think it's when you get above 30 something that the days on the lot go, unless it's some, Lexus or Toyota or something wait for.
Yeah.
And so I've got a Porsche Taycan. I have the sticker for it. The sticker was $218,000. After tax, license, registration, the person was out the door probably close to $250,000. It has every conceivable option, carbon fiber. It's this gorgeous chalk gray. It's in mint condition. One owner. The only imperfection when it showed up is the door handle had a little rub mark on it, right? Here's the deal. It has 92,000 miles. Okay. So that is scary for a Porsche Taycan because those batteries are freakishly expensive, but we offer an EV Auto specific battery warranty. We've tested that battery. We know that person babied that car, and it shows by its condition. And so for $2,500, we've got an unlimited year, unlimited mile battery warranty with a $250 deductible. So I'm selling that car for $75,000, including the battery warranty. Okay. And it is 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. It's incredible to drive. It's a supercar almost, right? I mean, I don't know what the definition of that is. And I'm just like, but I
just heard through the ether. I heard, man, you crazy.
Right? There's no risk on that car. And literally that car depreciated $175,000 in 4 years.
Wow.
And so, that is still an expensive car, but it's accessible. And so
going to evauto.com.
Right? Now, I'll even discount a little bit more for you, my friend.
Oh, okay. You might have to just fly. If I text you, Alex, and I say, I just bought a one-way ticket to Utah from Dallas, you know what's about to go down. Because, dude, I am such a laydown.
Yeah. Well, I sold another one, a Taycan earlier. So what's interesting on that tax credit day, I sold a Taycan, I sold 2 Cybertrucks, I sold a Rivian, and I sold a couple Model Y. I mean, I sold cars that day that weren't tax credit worthy or even close. So anyhow, I digress. Continue.
Listen, this is so enlightening. I feel inspired. I feel hopeful. I feel educated.
Let's go.
I want to thank you, man, for sharing time with me today. How can those listening or watching connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is to follow me on social media, probably. And my username is EVAutoAlex, and that's TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And you'll get a pretty good idea of what it's like here and what I'm like. And we don't put everything on camera, but I think it's an authentic representation of who we are and how we roll. And then of course, evauto.com is where my inventory is. And we ship nationwide. We sell a lot of cars to people out of state because they trust us. They know we're going to sell them the car we said, and we're not going to have weird fees, and we're going to back it up if there's an issue. And so I'll stop my sales pitch there, but really grateful that you had me, really grateful for the people that are supporting us and cheering us on and already follow us, and, say a prayer for us the next, few months. It's going to be a wild ride, but I can promise you one thing, we'll still be here.
I just got to point out, guys, if who better to teach in a sales program than the guy who just so suavely said, I don't actually need to buy a one-way ticket to Utah because he can ship the vehicle to me.
For $700.
Did anybody else pick up on this?
Texas is $700. People think they're like, wait, what? Yeah, that's right. You got it, man.
I love it, man. Thanks so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook Podcast.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Dealer Playbook Podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please subscribe, share, and hit that like button. You can also join us and the DPB community on social media. Check back next week for a new Dealer Playbook episode. Thanks so much for joining.